Hello, everyone. My name is Clayton Davis. I'm the Film Awards editor at Variety, and thank you for joining us today on this conversation with the Palm Springs Film Festival. Sorry, Palm Springs Film Society. Again, I'm here with the stars and writer-director of the new film Falling. That's Viggo Mortensen and Lance Henriksen. How you two doing today?
Really
Good.
good. Oh,
I,
really?
I always let me start properly. How are you doing? Like doing, because that means different things nowadays. Someone asked me the other day how I was doing. I was like, I'm good. And I was like, wait, I said that way too fast. I mean, I'm fine.
Well, I have I don't know about Lance, but I have a roof over my head. Looks like he does too.
Yeah, I
I have
do.
some food in the cupboard, and I have my health, and those around me also do. So I count myself lucky. So I would say I'm doing well.
I live way out in the country, so when I hear somebody screaming off in the distance, I know it's not a good day.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a pretty clear sign, right?
It's a
awesome.
very clear sign.
Have you heard any screaming lately?
A little bit,
A little
yeah.
bit.
Last night until about 2 in the morning.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
Yeah, I didn't
Woo.
answer them though. I mean,
Were they looking for you?
no, no.
Okay.
Oh, the squad's out for Lance now. But first of all, congratulations on Falling. What a film, what a debut for you, Vigo. It's just really touching, very moving. Both of you performances just hit it out of the park. Uh, Vigo, I have to ask you right off the bat, is this film autobiographical? Because there seems to be a very emotional touch connected between you and the narrative.
Well, the movie's dedicated to Charles and Walter Mortensen, who are my younger brothers, because of our shared upbringing, childhood. But it is a fictional story. There are some elements. The reason I dedicate it to them is because there's certain aspects of the dynamic, father-son dynamic, and then the dynamic between the parents and the flashback scenes. And there's a few things that are taken from my, admittedly subjective memories of the past, of my childhood, but it's mostly made up. That being said, like the feelings behind it have to do with, my feelings about my mother and my father, and I guess a desire to explore what I've learned from them both.
Awesome. Lance, you are a man that has graced our screens for decades. Uh, Most notably, obviously, Bishop, which now we see what Bishop would have turned out like if he was really a human in our world. Not You're a
Oh,
very rough guy.
but Bishop finally aged. He's
Yeah.
a
So
character, you know.
absolutely. Can you talk about how you prepared for this role? I mean, you've done so many throughout your career, and this seems to be one that maybe, and this says a lot, maybe your career best.
It could. I mean, but I'm not judging my career. I mean. I love what we do. I do, man. I mean, it's a journey. It's my college. It's my, whatever. It's my life. I've done a lot of movies, so even small parts, big parts, doesn't matter because I'm surrounded by artists who are actors, and some some more exciting and better than others. And I mean, whatever the journey is what I've been doing. And I have nothing but gratitude, believe me. This was a particularly personal movie because everything in it is personal. You can feel it from the opening to the end. And so that's an experience that you never forget. I'll never forget this film and what I felt while I was doing it. I mean, did that answer your question? I
Oh
think
yeah, I mean,
good, good.
it does. I mean, the personal touch is felt all throughout, and you both are hitting some notes that we haven't seen of you before. And Vigo, we mean, we go way back, with you, and I, obviously Lord of the Rings is your big for the fanboys out there that will always adore you for that. I'm always gonna give you shout outs for Eastern Promises, anything you do with David Cronenberg. But why this film for your directorial debut? Like, why this story? Because you always see like little inklings of people that act and say, they're gonna jump behind a camera one day. I don't know if I ever anticipated it for you.
Well, the simplest answer to the question is that this is the first one I was able to raise the money to do, because I have been trying to do it for about 25 years with different screenplays I've written. I've come close sometimes to raising the money, but I never quite got there. With Falling, even, it took a couple of times before we were able to get just enough money to make the movie I hope to make. And I understand that. I mean, independent filmmaking is always hard anyway, even if you're already an established director, because by and large, independent films aren't necessarily formulaic or completely star-driven. They're usually unorthodox, certainly Falling in terms of its structure, what it's about, how it's told is not. Maybe it's not the easiest thing to find the money for. And I also understand that even if people are somewhat, are relatively familiar with me, or I'm a familiar face as an actor, it doesn't mean I've shown that I could direct, because I'd never, until we shot Falling, I'd never directed even a short. I mean, I've been a producer a few times before that, and I've produced and edited music and things like that, but I've never directed a movie. So I understand the reticence. And what inspired me to tell this particular story was, it was really just wanting to explore, as I say, what I've learned from my parents and feelings I had, and communication, and the closer, I mean, since making the movie, even while we were shooting it, it was evident, but the closer we've come to the actual release of the movie, which will be February 5th in the US, the more urgent it seems to deal with the topic of communication. I would call it the other pandemic, the bad communication, the lack of communication entirely, and not just in the US, but other places too, and not just among politicians, but regular citizens. I mean, what happened in the Capitol last week makes it very evident, if it wasn't already, that we have a problem. We have another pandemic, and it's not one that you're going to cure with vaccines. You're only going to cure it by opening up, listening to, especially listening to people you don't like or don't agree with. You got to find a way to talk. You got to find a way to listen, first of all, then talk. And it's not an easy thing to do, because, you can feel humiliated. You can feel afraid. You can feel threatened. You can feel rightfully angry. But like in any relationship, work, intimate relationship, family, anything, if you just shut the person off or the group off that you don't like, that you don't trust, that you're disappointed by, that you're furious at, then nothing's going to happen. But if you keep, like in the story, the character I play, he has a difficult relationship with his father. The characters Lance and I play. And I would say that my character is as stubborn about wanting to communicate in spite of it all as Lance's character seems to be about not wanting to communicate. But maybe, just maybe, he is communicating, and I have to figure out a way to understand what he's communicating. Mm-hmm. In other words, like, if you want to fix somebody, you want to make somebody different. And I think the father in our story wants me to be, I'm not the man he thought I should be, would turn out to be. He's certainly not the father. He doesn't behave the way I would like him to be. But to get make any headway with that, you got to you first got to accept what's there. You got to look at it and go, okay, what is it that you're saying? Why are you so angry? Or why are we disagreeing? You know, you have to first like get to know the problem before you try to fix it, and accept yourself and them the way you are and the limitations. You know, it's like, you know, you hear somebody, you go to the symphony and you see someone playing violin and they look like they're doing it really well. Well, you wouldn't dream of you wouldn't say, unless you're really good at it already, you wouldn't say, well, that looks easy, I'll do that. It's like, you got to learn how to play first. Or somebody who is a great on the piano improvising jazz, you know, or something. You got to learn how to play first before you can start changing the rules, you know, deciding how someone should be. I think that goes for any relationship, but especially in a difficult one like this. And someone who has dementia also, you have to be flexible. Have to try to understand what it is that they're feeling. Try to serve them, even if you don't agree. Serve the other person. It's never a bad thing to serve the other person.
I think you touch on something right at the beginning, and Lance, I'm going to throw this question to you. I think what Viggo was describing was listen to understand instead of listening to respond, which is kind of what we're in nowadays. Now this time that we're in right now, where there's a lot of listening to responding, not listening to understanding. What was your approach to the character and your understanding of him, of Willis, and how he became the way he is and why he is the way he is? That's for you, Lance. I'm sorry.
That's what?
That was for you, Lance. That question was for you.
Oh,
sorry.
Look, when you find a shell on the beach, you suddenly see that it's many layers over time. It wasn't born a shell. It created itself like a fingernail, right? And so in so many ways, time is taken it out on, time has had Willis building this shell. Because as you get closer to the end, to the end of life, you start going, well, I got to buckle down and listen to myself talk. I'm even talking to myself in my house. Little things like, why did you do that? Why did you, I'm trying to pretend there's somebody else there, because I live alone, But anyway, and I, I have a studio and I do a lot of stuff, but it's not like I am a shell. But when you think about the idea that I don't need, in my view as Willis, I felt that I didn't need to be fixed. I've got a lot of skills, a lot of them. It's only when other people come around me that I realize they want something from me and I don't know what it is. And I don't understand why they're so persistent. Maybe a little violin music would be great, but I don't listen to that kind of music. I like other things, But how do I describe a whole lifetime? Because Willis wasn't born yesterday. He was born a long time ago and went through all his failures and his successes and all of these things, including, how you treat a child or your children or your wife. And then it's complicated. And now we're doing it in an hour and a half. We're trying to give you the whole texture of somebody's life in an hour and a half, or, however long it is. And so it's almost like we are a symphony of disorder. You know what I mean? It's like listening to a very loud symphony of conflict. And in a way, that's what's going on right now in the world. I mean, in our world, in America, you know. So it has that. And we all have that. I don't know if you've ever gotten in an argument with your girlfriend or your wife.
Never. Me and my wife never argue.
No, me either.
Never argue.
As
No.
chance, but as well as lots of arguing.
Yeah.
But you have to come. I don't know. Viggo mentioned a low budget film, I mean, you know, independent film. No, he said independent because it was any amount of money out of your wallet is not low budget. That's what you got, you know. I mean, right. So anyway, I was thinking as he was saying that, I've done some very big budget movies, a lot of them, you know, a pile of them. And one of the things, an actor has secrets. That's one of the best things he's got to protect his humanity, is to have secrets. And even while you're on a big budget film, I got secrets, and I'm operating in that part of my, you know, my mind.
Yeah.
And it makes them fun because very often they're not. They're so calculated that I went, can't I just go like this in the middle of the scene? Do you mind?
Yeah.
I want to. You know, so I approve of independent films. I think maybe with all the technology we got floating in on us, we can do a lot more films and tell a lot more stories. Viggo's such a great storyteller that I felt safe. I mean, he's telling stories that takes some edge. It takes some giving to tell that story. You've got to give. You can't just look good. You know, can't just stroll in and go, that's the scene. Cut. We got it.
So Viggo does. He just walks in. He's like, "That's a movie. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's do this.
Let's do this." Viggo, I'm gonna ask you about some of your inspirations as a director, because because of the way I am, I naturally will say like this makes me feel like something else, and I started getting inklings of like Jonathan Demme, Philadelphia Jonathan Demme, especially like in some of those like close-ups, framed, like just talking right to the camera. Can you talk about any of the inspirations that you like, things that inspired you in terms of how you wanted the film to look and feel?
I mean, obviously, anything I've ever watched, but not just anything I've ever watched or any production I've ever been part of.
So every movie ever, yeah,
has affected some, you know, whether I realize it. I just assume that it affected how I approached, but more importantly, what my life has been until now affected that too. Even just in terms of movies, my mom took me for the first time to the movies when I was 3, and we went a lot. I thought it was normal, but she took me a lot. We always went until she died. We saw movies together, and she always talked about story. So that affected the way I look at things. And she liked to talk about, even when I was little, about what wasn't shown, but what wasn't said, or but what you could surmise from what you've gotten so far from the story. If it was a long movie, you know, with had an intermission, or when it was over, what do you think happens next, or why do you think they didn't show a scene where this and that happened? So I've always been interested. I mean, basically, I made a movie, the kind of movie I'd like to go see, where not everything's underlined, you know. I mean, I won't go off on that tangent too long, limited time. But as far as influences in the preparation of the movie, yes, with Marcel Ziskin, the cinematographer, I shared a lot of still images with him first. I already knew him, so we'd been talking for years and about another project that we hope to do as well. And I've also worked as an actor under him when he was a cinematographer in a movie before that, Two Faces of January. So I knew what sort of we talk about movies, but in specifically preparing for Falling, there were certain still images that I'd taken or that others had taken that I shared. He shared some with me. We were trying to find a tone and an approach to scenes that are set in the present in the movie, which is early 2009, and the beginning of Obama's, first administration, and the flashback scenes, which the oldest are from the late 50s and then 1962 and then early or late 60s, early 70s, all the way to mid 70s, different sequences. And what do we want to get across? We knew that we didn't want to make do what often happens where it's sepia or it's black and white or different film stock, or we didn't want to do something that was really evident. It just had to be subtle. In part, it's affected by the fact that the light is simply different in summer and early fall or spring. The quality of light is different anyway, and that's most of the flashbacks happen. So there's warmer tones, but it also affected how we talked with the costume designer, production designer, colors, and to some degree, camera placement, depending on the point of view. The memory was that of a child, then it was lower angle. So then we would talk in early period, I would say, well, look at Ozu's movies, where the camera's placed, that 50 mil lens, and it's down low for cultural reasons, in Japan. And that's going to be useful maybe. But we didn't really ever, either before or during the shoot, say we're going to copy, and some directors do this, and I think it's fine, where they intentionally say we're going to copy that scene or that moment or that camera angle, or this is an homage to so-and-so, or this actor, this director, or that scene. We didn't reference in that way at all. We didn't even talk about any directors while we were shooting. Just assume that whatever our shared likes in terms of movie making and photography would come to bear, whether we realize it or not. But there were certain things that we talked about early on, certain movies, or the tone of certain. I could say a list, but I would leave someone out. There's a lot of directors, Russian directors, Japanese, Swedish, Danish, Americans, obviously lots, French. But it wasn't about copying a style. It was what's useful. There's a lot of tools out there. What have people done? What can help us do what we specifically need to do in this scene? We did it. We talked a lot about it, but we never were consciously trying to follow something. And it's interesting what people say afterwards. You talked about Jonathan Demme. I worked with Jonathan Demme on a movie. I was cut out of the movie. It was one of the first jobs I did, Swing Shift. It was a nice scene. It was a fun scene. Shot it in the New Art movie theater in LA. I was a Navy guy home on leave during World War II. And Goldie Hawn is sitting in front of me, and she's watching the newsreel, and she starts crying, right? Because her husband's away. It's Kurt Russell. He's away at World War II, and I'm sitting behind her, and I'm thinking she's pretty nice looking. So I try to pick her up. I have a box of Good and Plenty, and I shake it in her ear, and to get her attention, she turns around, and we had some dialogue, and she's like, runs out crying. I'm like, what the fuck? And nice scene. It was cut anyway. But yeah, it's interesting because at Q&As that I've done, some live audiences that I've done over here in Europe where the movies come out first, people sometimes will say, oh, that reminds me of this Clint Eastwood movie, or you're clearly referencing Tarkovsky here. Or I'm like, really? Oh, this could be. I don't know. But there wasn't a
intentional.
Yeah, but I'm flattered. Those are good directors.
Lance, I have a question for you, because I think in the Hollywood industry, they love to pigeonhole actors, and you've been very big staple in the horror genre, right? With Aliens. One of my personal favorites is Man's Best Friend, which, by the way, this movie keeps that ongoing trend of Lance Henriksen hurting animals. Even though it wasn't him in the movie that shot the duck, it's still keeping that trend going of just being a very scary guy that you are.
Looking at it.
Guy's an encyclopedia.
I know.
Yeah.
No, but Lance, this is, I imagine, and maybe I'm wrong, but this is so refreshing for you to take on like this new expansion of yourself as an actor, to
Yeah.
show a side that, people may not be aware of. I'm saying you never showed it, because people, I'm sure, have seen it. People that follow your filmography, but to the masses, they're going to see something that they've never seen of you before. Does that excite you? Was that one of the
Yes,
great
of
points of
course,
it?
of course. Over my career, it's been 50 years. There's a lot of little moments here and there.
How's it 50 years when you're 25? That's crazy.
I know, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. Sorry.
Looking a little tired from all
Math
the,
doesn't add up. It's okay.
but there's a whole other thing, where we have a certain amount of buckets in our head to capture things, and we never forget anything really. It's like little, all the faces we've met, we have them in here. They're not going away. So I think as you get toward later in life, you decide, well, I'm not going to think about that anymore, but it's still there.
Mhm.
It's all still there. Every image, every sound, you know. I've noticed. I mean, I have really noticed. But
It's
but
good to be
so
aware.
knowing that element, I remember working with Zemeckis, and the first day on the set, we were doing a thing called Tales from the Crypt, and it was a show called Yellow with Kirk Douglas and his son, and I'm playing the role that, in a way, that he played when he did that French movie about shooting the four guys, to make a point. Don't don't give up, keep fighting, that kind of stuff. But anyway, Zemeckis, the first thing he said to me on the set was, "We're all making the same money, so let's have fun here." Right? Like nobody's making any money, so we're doing this Tales from the Crypt, and it was fun. But again, I will never forget any detail of what was done with me in that show. I don't forget. There's something about the accumulation of all of the movies that I've done and all those little moments in between and while you're on the screen and all of that stuff. It's just because I like it so much. It's poetry. It's physical, it's mental, it's all of it. And then you're always excited and have this incredible fear of falling off the top of the building.
Yeah.
You go down.
It's
It's
beautiful. First of all, it's really refreshing to see someone who's still passionate about what they do. Because I mean, I'm sure, Lance, you've worked with many people in Hollywood. There's always people that they think they're doing you a favor by still acting. Like, if you don't like it, then please stop. Like, we don't need to, if you hate it that much, but you still love it, which is great. And obviously, Vigo, you love it too. And I have to give you guys the opportunity, this is for both of you, to talk about this cast that includes Laura Linney, who is just,
yeah.
just like the cream of the
Everybody
crop.
in it. Everybody in it. I liked them all, man.
Terry Chen, who is amazing
Yeah.
in this, as your husband, and I have to ask you, Vigo, Cronenberg as the doctor. I mean, like, how did that happen? Because it was so surprising when it comes.
You recognize.
Yeah, I knew him. Yeah, I was like, that's David Cronenberg.
Well, it's interesting. In some of these Q&As, I've sort of asked questions. When I have a live audience, how many of you knew that the proctologist was played by David Cronenberg, the film director? And usually it's maybe 15% tops, right? And then I'll say, well, how many of you feel that that was a good scene, or that the actor playing the proctologist did a good job? And then it's pretty unanimous, fortunately, right? And I said, well, that's the main goal. So the way it happened was I just sent the script to him. I said, David, we're shooting not far from where you live, and it's not it's not a stunt. I'm not even asking you a favor. I'm just saying, I need to cast this role, and you're my ideal actor for the role. I've seen your work as an actor, and you're perfect for it. I think you and Lance would be a great combination. And but if you don't want to do it, it's not a problem. We'll find someone else. So really, just only do it if you want to do it. And he liked it, and he did it, and he did a great job. That's how that happened. But I mean, you have to have some luck when you're making a movie, or just in life generally. But the best thing is to be prepared for it. We tried to prepare as well as we could, and that went with the casting, just being very meticulous. And I have to say that I'm so grateful and happy with the cast that we got, because from 4-year-old Grady McKenzie, the boy who does the duck hunting sequences, to Lance, everybody was just so right for the role, and always brought something more than I expected. And it was just, that's a gift, you know, for a director, especially first-time director. You need all the help you can get. And if you have a cast that's as good as this, you know, I mean, and I have to, you know, I'm sitting here with Lance, but it's not just because he's here. I would say this to you if it was just you and me talking. I think that everybody is great. When Laura appears the first time, you're like, wow, now I know a lot more about this family and this wonderful work. And Hannah Gross playing the mother, which for me is the moral fulcrum of the story, the conscience of the story. She's great. But Lance Henriksen gives, I mean, you asked him a question before and he didn't, you know, he's too modest to answer it, but I'll tell you that I think it's one for the ages. I think it's a performance that's going to be remembered for a long time. It's disturbing, it's layered, it's brave, it's surprising, it's so many things. I mean, nobody can do something, a performance, make a movie that everybody's going to like, but I have to say that the reactions that I get all the time, everywhere that anybody sees it, coincide with the way I feel about what you did, Lance. It's an amazing performance. It's beautiful, and you know, there's a lot of you deserve it, buddy. You're welcome. You have a lot of tools at your disposal. You know, making a movie. You know, how you use the camera and sound and images to get across, especially someone playing a person that has dementia. How do you deal with memory? How do you deal with all those things? But if you don't have someone that can give you these subtle reactions, these surprising reactions and line readings, and just the way, the subtlety of what Lance did, it just allowed us to, the movie wouldn't work in the way it does without him, clearly. And it's beautiful what you did. But we were so fortunate with the actors. I mean, it was great.
Amazing. That's beautiful.
I didn't know who Cronenberg was, by the way.
Oh yeah, that's funny.
I swear.
He calls me up. This is like 2 months ago only. Lance, you know, he's got Skype now and obviously has Zoom. We're doing it, but he didn't have it before. And so he got this installed, right? Not so long ago. So we could do all these.
I'm getting good at it.
Do these things.
Good.
Right. And so sometimes Lance will just call me any time of day or night. It's like ding dong ding, unless I've closed the laptop. There it is. And how you doing? You sleep again? And yeah, it's like 3 in the morning, man. Oh, okay, whatever. And but he calls me one evening. He says, I just saw you and Dr. Klausner and I'm watching these YouTube videos, and you're like talking about a movie. You're doing a Q&A. Like we were doing the other day. You're doing a Q&A with Dr. Klausner, and it turns out that's Cronenberg. You didn't know it was David Cronenberg you were doing that scene with?
No, I didn't know.
It's amazing.
But it was great. I remember on the day I asked Lance, I said, when David left, I said, what'd you think? He goes, that Dr. Klausner, man, he's pretty strict. He's good, that actor. He's pretty good.
It's good up and comer.
I didn't think anything of it. I didn't know that meant he didn't know who he'd never met.
Yeah,
No, I'd never seen him in person. I've seen his movie. I've seen him, you know, I mean, there, but I never met him. I didn't connect it.
My favorite Cronenberg movie, and not because you're here, Viggo. Honestly, is honestly my favorite film of his, A History of Violence, his masterpiece. I'll always live and die by that movie.
Yeah, so, I like all 3 that I did with him, but that one's a good one.
That one's always the one that I'm like, that's it.
Well, thank you.
My last question for you two, and you know, now that you know the movie's gonna finally see the light of day, And in this very weird time that we're in, where cinema cinema saved our lives. And I think people don't speak to that enough during this time, because everyone was home watching TV and movies when they couldn't do anything else, and it stressed the importance of a movie theater, and so many other things. When people watch Falling, as for both of you, what do you want them to walk away with? Now, when I say walk away from their TV to their kitchen, or if they're able to get it in a theater, walk out of the theater, and that drive home. What is that one thing you want them to have?
Man, I can't even go there. I mean, it's how would I ever twist somebody's arm and have them like what I think is good? I mean, I couldn't do it. I just think the adventure is so complete that they're going to feel something, and that's good. That's good. They'll be opened up onto a new issue, and it might give them a lot of different feelings. I never wanted to be a psychiatrist, believe me.
I would, I mean, I didn't make the movie want to tell this story with a goal in mind to in fact, I don't like movies that tell people what to think or what to feel. I don't like film scores that do that either. I like to make up my own mind as an audience member and take part if I'm interested enough in what I'm seeing and getting from the screen and the speakers in the first 10 or 15 minutes. Then I'll take part, and I'll be part of making the story my own, telling the story with you, right, as a director. But I would say, if there's something in retrospect that I would like a person who's just seen Falling to take from it, it might be to don't ever stop trying to understand the world you live in, yourself, and especially other people, and particularly people that you instinctively don't like or agree with. Don't stop trying to understand. You may not ever get an answer for certain things. You may not ever understand, but don't quit, because as soon as you stop trying to understand, it means that you're not interested anymore in life. So that's sad, I think, and not very productive.
Awesome.
I
You
got one
too.
more.
Oh, good. Please.
I
Thanks.
I have 3 horses, and I love them very much.
You're in character. He's still in character.
I know.
All the time later.
You gotta watch that Lance Henriksen, man. He's a slick one. Listen, Lance, I'm honestly, I'm so happy for you. What a great performance. Thank you so much for this. I honestly believe I'm gonna echo what Viggo said. I think this is your gift to cinema. Not that you haven't already given us many, but this is the one that will touch forever.
That's
So
kind of you.
congratulations, and Viggo. If you feel like making another movie, go ahead. I give you my blessing, my permission. Go ahead. Right?
I definitely do.
Absolutely.
Money's overrated. You don't need a lot of that in order to just make one. So just go ahead and make one.
Yeah. I'm never going to direct. I have no desire.
No?
No, come on.
No.
I think Lance Henriksen behind the camera might be really interesting. I'd be down for it. I want to see it.
As long
I
as
feel like it would be really dark though for some reason. I'm imagining very gritty, brutal.
not me. No.
It would be great.
I sneak in stuff, but I'm not gonna. No.
Oh yeah. But no, thank you very much for taking this time with me, and thanks to all of you for watching. And please be safe and enjoy 2021.
Thanks for the good conversation, and I
Great one.
echo that thought. I second that emotion. Happy, healthy 2021 to you, to your family, to your friends, to those people you don't know, and especially to the people you don't like. Why not?
Right.